Your being here may not feel accidental, especially if something inside you has been urging you to find an answer. For a while now, perhaps days, weeks, or even months, you may have been looking towards something you could not clearly explain, a sign, a confirmation, or simply a moment of peace that would quiet the uncertainty inside you. You may have carried these feelings privately because you feared being misunderstood. Perhaps you worried someone would tell you that you were imagining too much, becoming attached, or seeing meaning where none existed. So you stayed silent. Yet even in that silence, an inner voice continued speaking. It followed you through quiet mornings, sleepless nights, and ordinary moments when you tried to keep yourself distracted. No matter how much you pushed it away, the feeling kept returning. What if that persistence is not a weakness? What if it is your inner awareness trying to bring something important into your consciousness? There are moments when the deepest part of us recognizes something before the rational mind has enough evidence to explain it. Fear, past disappointments, and emotional wounds can make us question those feelings, telling us they are too intense, too sudden, or simply impossible. But even after you tried to suppress them, the same truth continued resurfacing. Perhaps this is why you are hearing this message now, not to force an answer, but to help you understand what your experience may be revealing. There is a reason this particular person affects you so deeply. The connection may feel different because it reaches beyond ordinary attraction. Distance does not seem to erase it. Silence does not necessarily make it disappear. Instead, even without contact, you may sense an unusual depth beneath the absence. Your intuition keeps returning to the same feeling, even when your logical mind argues against it. Your heart seems to react before your thoughts can organize an explanation. That does not automatically mean every feeling is destiny, but it does mean the experience deserves honest attention rather than immediate rejection. What makes this connection especially powerful is the sense of recognition surrounding it. You may have tried to dismiss it, rationalize it, or make it seem less important than it feels, yet every attempt to bury the experience seems to bring your attention back to it. Something within you continues asking why this person appeared in your life and why the emotional response feels so unusual. It can seem less like discovering someone completely new and more like encountering something strangely familiar. This kind of resonance can feel deeper than physical attraction or intellectual compatibility because it touches parts of your identity that ordinary relationships may never reach. Still, there is an important question to ask. How can you tell the difference between genuine connection and simple longing? The mind often becomes protective after experiencing pain. When it fears disappointment, it may interpret uncertainty as danger and encourage you to doubt everything you feel. That doubt is not necessarily your enemy. Sometimes it is simply an old defense trying to keep you safe. But deeper connections often reveal themselves through what they awaken within you. One of the clearest signs is an unexpected sense of peace. Even when this person is distant, you may not feel completely consumed by panic. Somewhere beneath the uncertainty, there can be a quiet steadiness, a feeling that the significance of the connection does not depend entirely on constant communication or physical closeness. It is a calm that comes from within rather than from receiving reassurance every moment. That experience is unusual, and you can probably recognize how different it feels from ordinary attachment. Another sign is that the connection begins revealing more of who you truly are. Instead of simply making you chase another person, it may awaken qualities in yourself that had remained hidden. Courage, honesty, emotional depth, creativity, confidence, or a desire to grow. You begin changing because something has been stirred inside you. You are not merely trying to become worthy of someone else. You are being encouraged to become more authentic within yourself. Then there is the persistence of the feeling. Time passes, circumstances change, distractions appear, and logic offers countless reasons to move on, yet the emotional significance remains. Ordinary attachment often weakens when attention is redirected, but some experiences continue to hold their presence even when you consciously try to release them. That persistence can feel confusing because the mind wants everything to have a simple explanation. Yet sometimes an unresolved emotional experience remains because it is asking to be understood rather than ignored. The important thing is not to blindly label every intense emotion as destiny, but to observe what the experience is actually doing to you. Does it bring greater self-awareness? Does it encourage you to become more honest with yourself? Does it lead you toward inner peace, personal growth, and emotional maturity? Or does it leave you trapped in fear, obsession, and constant uncertainty? Those differences matter. A meaningful connection should not require you to abandon yourself. Instead, it can become a mirror through which you recognize parts of yourself that were waiting to emerge. Perhaps that is why this bond feels so difficult to dismiss. It may not simply be about another person. It may also be about what their presence awakened within you. Something in you has been changed by the encounter, and that change deserves your attention. The feeling may be pointing toward a truth you have not fully understood yet. Not necessarily a promise about what another person will do, but an invitation to listen more deeply to yourself. Sometimes the most powerful recognition begins before the mind can explain it. And sometimes, what feels like a mysterious pull is actually the beginning of becoming more conscious of who you are, what you need, and what your heart has been trying to tell you all along. This connection was never meant to destroy you. It came to change you from within. Real transformation rarely begins with certainty. More often, it starts with questions, confusion, and moments when nothing seems to make sense. If this bond carries such deep meaning, you may wonder why distance appeared between you. Why did communication become quiet? Why did something that once felt so alive suddenly become difficult to reach? Why would separation exist when the connection seemed so naturally aligned? These questions are understandable, especially when your heart has not received the answers it wants. But sometimes clarity arrives only after a period of silence. A meaningful connection is not necessarily erased by time apart, unanswered messages, fear, or circumstances that temporarily pull two people in different directions. What looks like an ending from the outside can sometimes be a pause that creates room for healing and growth. There are moments when two people need to develop separately before they can understand what they are capable of creating together. Distance can reveal emotional patterns that closeness allows us to avoid. It can expose fears, attachments, insecurities, and unresolved wounds that need attention before a deeper relationship can become stable. In that sense, separation does not always represent loss. Sometimes it becomes preparation. The emotions you experienced were still real simply because circumstances changed afterward. The awakening you felt, the questions it created, and the way this person affected your inner world all became part of your development. Even if your mind tries to rewrite the entire experience as fantasy or convince you that everything is permanently finished, another part of you may still recognize that the encounter changed something important. Whether the connection continues in the way you hope or takes another form, it has already influenced who you are becoming. The confusion surrounding it may therefore be less about destruction and more about reconstruction. You are being given space to understand yourself more honestly, release old emotional habits, and discover what balance actually means for you. From a spiritual perspective, what appears to be an enormous separation can be viewed as a period of preparation rather than a final verdict. Human awareness tends to judge life from the narrow perspective of the present moment. We see what is happening today and assume it represents the entire story. A deeper level of awareness, however, invites you to consider that growth often unfolds through stages that cannot be understood while you are living through them. You may not know what comes next, and you should not force yourself to pretend that you do. Yet this uncertainty can still become meaningful when you use it to develop greater self-awareness. Instead of allowing fear to convince you that everything is lost, ask what this period is teaching you. Perhaps it is showing you how to release control, strengthen your emotional foundation, trust yourself without becoming dependent on another person's actions, and recognize the difference between genuine love and fear of losing someone. The purpose of a meaningful connection is not always simply reunion. Sometimes its deeper purpose is awakening. It can push you toward a version of yourself that would never have emerged through comfort alone. This is why silence can become an important part of the journey. Withdrawal does not automatically mean rejection. A pause can provide protection when two people are not yet emotionally prepared to handle the intensity of what they feel. If unresolved wounds, defensive habits, or fear-driven reactions remain active, coming together too soon can create instability instead of peace. Time apart can create the conditions needed for both people to become more grounded. It gives each person the opportunity to confront what they carry privately, rather than expecting the other person to heal it for them. This is where the deeper transformation happens. Old emotional patterns can begin to loosen. Fear responses can be understood instead of obeyed. Protective walls can gradually come down. Childhood influences, past disappointments, and habits formed through survival can be recognized for what they are. The distance then becomes more than empty space. It becomes an opportunity to become emotionally stronger, clearer, and more authentic before deciding what the connection truly means. Perhaps the hardest part is accepting that you cannot force the timing. You may desperately want certainty, contact, or confirmation, but meaningful growth cannot always be rushed. If two people are meant to cross paths again, the healthiest foundation for that meeting is not obsession or emotional survival, it is maturity. Both individuals must be capable of meeting one another without demanding that the other person repair what they have not repaired within themselves. That is why this period can feel so uncomfortable. It asks you to grow without immediate reassurance. It asks you to keep moving forward while a part of you remains curious about what could happen next. The lesson is not to sit frozen, waiting for another person to return. It is to use the space you have been given to become more conscious, more balanced, and more honest with yourself. Whatever eventually unfolds, this experience can continue shaping your understanding of love, attachment, intuition, and personal identity. What feels like being left behind may actually be an invitation to step deeper into your own life. The connection does not need to be treated as punishment, and you do not need to treat uncertainty as proof that you imagined everything. At the same time, you do not have to turn hope into certainty about another person's future choices. Let the experience transform you without allowing it to control you. Sometimes the greatest purpose of a powerful bond is not simply bringing two people together, but awakening something within each of them that could not have awakened any other way. The silence may be teaching patience. The distance may be teaching self-trust. The unanswered questions may be teaching you to listen inwardly without abandoning reason. And the growth taking place now may be preparing you for whatever comes next, whether that means reunion, a new chapter, or a deeper understanding of why this person entered your life in the first place. Without this inner transformation, even a powerful connection can become consumed by insecurity, attachment, and emotional pressure. The deeper purpose is not to make you dependent on another person for your sense of peace. It is to help you become complete within yourself first. Distance can become the environment where hidden fears finally rise into awareness. The fear of being abandoned, the fear of being alone, or the painful belief that you are somehow not enough. These fears often create the same emotional patterns again and again, repeating old wounds until they are consciously recognized. The pause is not meant to punish you. It can serve as an interruption to that cycle, giving you the opportunity to understand what has been operating beneath the surface. Once those hidden emotions become visible, healing can actually begin. As you become more grounded, the way you experience the connection can change too. What once felt chaotic may begin to feel clearer. What once created anxiety may become easier to understand. Stability starts coming from within, rather than depending entirely on what another person does. And this process is not necessarily happening on only one side. Even when you cannot see what is taking place in another person's life, they may also be moving through their own internal struggle. Your paths may look completely different on the surface, while still involving similar lessons underneath. You may be becoming more willing to face your emotions while they are still resisting theirs. You may be learning to trust your inner awareness while they remain caught between intuition and fear. You may be confronting emotional truth while they retreat into familiar defenses. From the outside, their silence could appear to mean indifference, but silence alone cannot reveal what someone is experiencing internally. Sometimes withdrawal is less about a lack of feeling and more about not knowing how to process what has been awakened. The mind may create explanations that feel safer. Perhaps the connection meant nothing, perhaps everything was coincidence, perhaps moving on would be easier. These stories can provide temporary protection from emotions that feel too large to understand. Yet unresolved feelings often return when distractions disappear. Memories can surface unexpectedly. Familiar songs can trigger emotion. Dreams can bring old images back, and ordinary moments can suddenly awaken thoughts that were believed to be buried. Whether these experiences are interpreted spiritually or psychologically, they can reveal that something remains emotionally unresolved. When the usual distractions stop working, a person may be forced to confront what they have been avoiding. Activities that once provided comfort may begin to feel empty, and the external noise that once kept difficult emotions away may no longer be enough. This can create an uncomfortable inner confrontation. The protective identity built around avoidance starts becoming harder to maintain. What was once pushed aside keeps returning for examination. In a spiritual interpretation, this can feel like an awakening. In psychological terms, it can be the natural process of becoming conscious of emotions that were previously suppressed. Either way, the important transformation is the same. Something that was hidden is becoming visible. That process can be uncomfortable because it challenges old defenses. Pride may weaken, fear may become obvious, the need to control the outcome may begin losing its power. And although this unraveling can feel painful, it may prevent the same patterns from being repeated if another meeting eventually occurs. Returning to one another without personal growth would only recreate the same misunderstandings, reactions, and emotional barriers that created separation in the first place. This is why silence can sometimes function as preparation rather than emptiness. It creates room for both people to examine themselves separately. The goal is not to sit endlessly waiting for a reunion, but to become capable of handling whatever the future brings without losing yourself in the process. A meaningful turning point comes when readiness becomes stronger than resistance. If reconnection ever happens, the healthiest version of it would not be driven purely by loneliness, desperation, or a temporary emotional impulse. It would come from greater awareness and a willingness to acknowledge what has been difficult to face. Surrender in this sense does not mean giving up your boundaries or abandoning reason. It means releasing the need to control every outcome and becoming honest about what the experience has revealed. Something may already be shifting within you, even if the change is so subtle that you barely notice it. You might recognize it in the way you respond to memories. The same memory that once caused intense pain may now carry a different emotional weight. The past has not changed, and neither has what happened, but your relationship with the memory has begun to change because you are changing. Healing rarely means forgetting. More often, it means remembering without allowing the memory to control your present. There may still be moments when the silence feels especially heavy, when you wonder why the distance continues, or why the emotional story has not reached a clear conclusion. But even that heaviness can reveal progress if you observe it rather than allowing it to consume you. The parts of you that once held tightly to certainty, reassurance, or another person's presence can gradually learn to release their grip. You do not have to force yourself to stop caring. You simply stop feeding the attachment with fear. And as fear loses strength, attachment begins to loosen naturally. When attachment no longer controls your perception, clarity has room to emerge. You can care without losing yourself. You can remember without remaining trapped in the past. You can remain open to possibility without turning possibility into certainty. This is the deeper work, becoming whole enough that love, connection, or separation no longer determines your worth. Whether this journey ultimately leads two people back toward one another or teaches them something they needed to learn separately, the transformation within you remains valuable. The silence has meaning only if you use it to become more conscious, more grounded, and more honest with yourself. The real turning point is not simply when someone returns. It is when you no longer need their return to feel complete. You may begin noticing a subtle change in the way your mind works. Thoughts that once felt scattered and overwhelming are starting to arrange themselves into something you can understand. Instead of immediately following every emotion or reacting to every memory, you're learning to pause and simply observe. That small distance between you and your emotions is a powerful sign of growing awareness. You're no longer completely trapped inside the storm. You're beginning to witness it from a calmer place. At first, these moments may last only seconds, but with time they become easier to access. Questions may still arise about timing, purpose, and whether this connection will ever feel the way it once did. Yet another realization is slowly forming. Returning to the past is not the goal. Genuine growth does not take you backward. It carries you toward something more balanced, mature, and stable. The connection itself may not vanish while this transformation takes place, but your relationship with it can change completely. What once created emotional turbulence can become a source of reflection. What once felt like longing can become understanding. What once demanded answers can teach you patience. This is how meaningful experiences evolve when they are processed consciously. They do not exist to keep you repeating the same emotional cycle forever. They can become catalysts that reveal a stronger version of who you are. You may also notice life seeming strangely synchronized with your inner state. Certain conversations feel significant. Small events catch your attention. Situations that once seemed ordinary suddenly appear connected to what you are experiencing internally. Whether you understand these moments as spiritual signs or simply as heightened awareness, one thing is changing. You are paying attention again. Your perception becomes sharper when your inner world becomes clearer. Patterns that were previously overlooked become easier to recognize, and your intuition begins to feel less distant. Emotional triggers may still appear, but they no longer control you as completely. Instead of being consumed by a painful reaction, you recover more quickly and can recognize both the emotion and the lesson hidden inside it. That is emotional maturity, not the absence of pain, but the ability to experience pain without allowing it to define your entire identity. Meanwhile, another process may be unfolding beyond what you can directly see. The other person may still have resistance, distractions, and unresolved emotions, but awareness can gradually emerge beneath those defenses. When someone repeatedly tries to avoid an uncomfortable truth, silence can eventually become the place where that truth becomes impossible to escape. Memories return, thoughts surface unexpectedly, feelings emerge when there is no longer enough external noise to cover them. This does not necessarily mean they are consciously preparing for a reunion, but it can represent the natural weakening of avoidance. The resistance itself begins to lose strength. The explanations that once made everything easier to dismiss may stop feeling convincing. Emotional awareness rarely arrives in one dramatic moment. More often, it develops gradually, layer by layer, until something that was once denied becomes impossible to ignore. That process cannot be forced. Pressure usually strengthens resistance rather than dissolving it. This is why periods of distance can become valuable. They remove some of the urgency and create space for each person to discover what remains when immediate reaction is no longer driving the experience. What survives without constant contact deserves a different kind of attention than what exists only through emotional intensity. During this stage, you may also find yourself naturally returning your focus to your own life. Interests that were neglected begin becoming meaningful again. Your goals regain importance. Your attention slowly comes back to your own growth, stability, direction, and sense of purpose. This is not necessarily emotional detachment. It is reclamation. You are taking your energy back instead of allowing your entire inner world to revolve around something you cannot control. And something surprising can happen once that shift occurs. The connection may feel less chaotic precisely because you are no longer chasing it for reassurance. The less desperately you search for an explanation, the more clearly you can understand what the experience is actually teaching you. What is healthy and meaningful does not need to be forced into existence through pressure. Clarity creates space where truth can reveal itself naturally. Doubt will probably still visit you. That is not failure. It is part of being human. The difference is that doubt no longer has to become your permanent home. You can acknowledge uncertainty without surrendering your entire direction to it. Slowly, you begin trusting your inner stability more than the changing circumstances around you. A quieter kind of strength develops, the kind that does not need constant confirmation, does not collapse when communication disappears, and does not confuse waiting with losing yourself. You learn that allowing time to unfold is not the same as being powerless. It is possible to remain open without becoming dependent, to care without chasing, and to hope without turning hope into certainty. As this inner balance develops, the conditions that once made the connection unstable can begin losing their influence. Fear becomes easier to recognize. Emotional defenses become less automatic. The need to control outcomes begins to soften. What remains can then be examined with greater honesty and awareness. This is why the difficult parts of the journey do not have to be viewed as meaningless. The confusion taught you to question. The silence taught you to listen inwardly. The intensity forced you to examine what was beneath the surface. Even moments that felt like loss may have redirected you toward greater self-understanding. If this connection enters another chapter, it does not need to repeat the form it had before. The healthier possibility is not two people returning because they cannot tolerate separation, but two people meeting again from a place of greater wholeness. Neither person needs the other to complete an unfinished identity. Instead, both can choose connection consciously, with clearer boundaries, deeper self-awareness, and greater emotional balance. That is the real transformation taking place. The destination is not simply reunion. It is becoming the kind of person who can experience connection without abandoning themselves. And when that happens, whatever comes next can be approached from clarity rather than fear.